Hey everyone, Xenos here. Yes, I got a haircut. I get haircuts. I'm sorry. I don't have a significant hairstyle. I can't deal with my hair in the back. It just unruly. I don't know how people longer do it. But anyways, now I know I talk a lot about Pokemon on my channel. What can I say? I've been playing since I was a kid, and ever since I did my review on Pokemon Ultra Moon, some friends and a few viewers, as an aside, thanks for still watching, have asked me what my opinions are on the other games of the series. So I decided I'd do an orderly list for you guys. Just for the record, this will only be main series games, no spin-offs like Mystery Dungeon or Ranger, or crossovers like Smash Bros. Or Dynasty Warriors. Also, as a side note, I'll be counting the games as released. For example, counterparts like Sapphire and Ruby will be rated together, while Emerald will be counted separate from it and Fire Red and Leaf Green. Also, as I only played about 10 minutes of it, Pokemon Crystal will not appear on this list. I borrowed it from my cousin Matt, but couldn't really get into it. He was already at Tin Tower, so I had no idea what I was doing or what his team was. That and I got swept by Suicune. Yeah, so, sorry Matt. Yellow, which I can't really remember, is also not going to be included. In addition, remasters like Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire will be counted as separate from the original versions. With that out of the way, let's begin. At the bottom, we have Heart Gold and Soul Silver. Did I read that wrong? No, I did not. Although I was exceedingly hyped for these games to the point Soul Silver was the first game I pre-ordered just for the Lugia statuette, which I still have. Just for this little statuette, I pre-ordered the game. Anyways, shut up, cat. Where was I? Right, so, looking back, Heart Gold and Soul Silver pale as remasters. To be honest, there are 3 reasons why I don't like these two as much as the original. First, it uses Gen 4's UI and overworld sprite design. I was not a fan of Generation 4's style, although it did have a few of my favorite legendaries. Second, they changed Ecritique's music. When I got to Ecritique, I was excited to hear one of my favorite town themes, but it was completely different when I got there. Ecritique was always a favorite place of mine in Silver, but now? Third, they made Lugia and Ho-Oh the mascots' story encounters. What made Lugia and Ho-Oh memorable was finding them on your own. However, that's not to say they weren't completely... Wait. Sorry, I must have typed that wrong. However, that's not to say they were completely flawed. 2 things that should have reappeared were the following partner and the Pokewalker. I get that the technical limitations of bringing along something like Wailord or Steelix would be infeasible in later games such as Sun and Moon or X and Y, but I would have loved to have Jumbo, my superior, follow me around Unova. And the Pokewalker was Pokemon Go in a speedometer, except better. And decent. I would put Pokemon into my Pokewalker and then go to school with my Gyarados or Onix or Raikou. It wasn't all bad, it was just a disappointment. Next we have Pokemon Sun and Moon. The main problem I have with Sun and Moon is that they're exceptionally linear as compared to the other games. It was far too much hand-holding. Even my little cousin, a relative novice to the series, complained about it. In addition to the lengthy opening sequence, which required a 1 minute and 30-second cutscene before you could even get your starter, was too much. Hell, the original games didn't make you wait that long before Professor Oak let you pick your Pokemon. Another problem I have is they Z-lined the ever-fun Mega Evolution for the rather gimmicky Z-move. Although the Z-moves could be quite fun to watch, it just didn't have the same impact for me as Mega Evolution did. The story's still fun, and the music, while at times mismatched compared to the battle, was acceptable. I don't have nearly enough complaints for 16 lines like with the last entry. For those of you wondering, 12 point times New Roman single-spaced. I'm gonna catch hell for this one. Third from the bottom are Pokemon Red and Blue. All you Gen 1ers out there yelling, go ahead. I can wait.
11 minutes later.
All good? Now, let me explain why it's here. This was the original duo with Starter Finals, Blastoise, and Charizard as the mascots. The artwork is nothing to be impressed by yet. Pikachu, for example, lost a lot of weight in 3 years. Squirt, my Blastoise, trimmed back his shell quite a bit. Kinda jealous of him. Charizard looks like he got a nose job. But enough about the graphics. There isn't a clear-cut story like later games. It's almost completely open-ended. In addition, some things were broken. The infamous missing no, Psychic overpowering everything, the 3 ghosts in-game getting easily swept by ground moves, and even Psychic. Bug being almost useless for countering Psychic, but there is an upside to this being so low on the list. Care to guess? Because this is a starting point, and from there you can only go upwards. With a few exceptions. Almost every game from this point on improved on it in some way, rebalancing as time went on, correcting issues from before. This is precisely why, in my opinion, why they belong so low. As much fun as I had playing Red as a kid, the games only got better from there. So if your starting point is lower than everything else, you're doing something right. Now, next we have Pokemon Diamond and Pearl. I've heard some people complaining that these games brought massively over-designed Pokemon, and I can see where they're coming from. Empoleon, Dialga, Palkia, Magmortar, Rhyperior, just to name a few. I liked the Pokemon, but as I said before, I was not a fan of the UI for Generation 4. Sure, we had the 2-speed bike, replacing the need for the Acro and Mach bikes from Ruby and Sapphire, but the run cycle I felt was a massive downgrade from Generation 3. It was fun to watch you run around with the Generation 3 run cycle. This just felt slower for some reason, less energetic. In addition, I know it was on a new system, but you can see the pixels on the Nintendo DS games, whereas you had to get up close to the Game Boy Advance screen to see them. Plus, the colors were a lot duller in Sinnoh than they were in Hoenn. Even I could tell, and I didn't get my glasses until about 9 years later. That's not to say that Gen 4 was all bad. Team Galactic is the first evil team you kind of sympathize for, just because of how well written Cyrus is. In addition, a lot of the new additions are some of my favorite to this day. Twig, Starry, and Shelios, my sister nicknamed, are among some of my more memorable teammates. I also loved how the touchscreen was incorporated into Pokemon. Checking the time, doodling, checking your Pokemon in daycare. The Pokédex needed much more screen time. No pun intended. The TM list finally got expanded past 50, which was nice. The previous 50 was extremely limiting. Also, the secret base mechanic made its final appearance here up until Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. It was fun being in the underground, but needing to interact with a lot of people just to find Spiritomb was more than a little annoying. On the plus side, it was a better version of Sableye. Continuing on, we have Pokemon Platinum, ranking just above its counterparts. A lot of what was said in the previous entry goes for this game as well. There are 3 major differences, however. First, all 3 of the Matter Trio are available. After entering the Distortion World, you can catch Giratina. After beating the Elite Four, you can catch both Dialga and Palkia. Arceus, Darkrai, and Shaman are still unavailable unless you cheat, however, which is a real shame. Both my little cousin and I really like Darkrai. Although he does use Dark Void way too much. Keegan. Second, the Battle Frontier is here instead of just the Battle Tower. Third, Looker is introduced. Ever since his introduction, Looker is a member of Interpol who investigates criminal teams in the region. And he is an awesome character to have around. Not to mention he looks like my favorite doctor, David Tennant. He shows up in every main series game. He's shown up in every main series game since, barring Black 2 and White 2. Next, we have Pokemon Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon. I've already gone over this. Well, Ultra Moon at least. So, go watch the review if you haven't already. Again, I might be lighter on this game than the others, just because of when it came out. Moving on before I tear up again. Continuing on, we encounter Black 2 and White 2. Direct sequels are rare in Pokemon. I believe I said that in my worst bosses video. Anyways, this game was fun to play, especially since you already knew a lot about the region from the earlier Black and White. This also includes the first fusion, as some of my classmates put it back in high school. I think they were upset about it, though. White Kyurem and Black Kyurem opened up for a lot of possibilities, such as Duskmane and Dawnwing Necrozma. The reason this is lower than Black and White is because its sequel is set 2 years after. Speaking of which, next we have Pokemon Black and White. I'm going to say this right now, I bloody loved these games. They were a huge improvement over Diamond and Pearl with awesome, if over-designed Pokemon, and an entirely new dex. Nothing older showed up until you beat the game. And the game introduced you to N, probably my favorite villain/rival in the history of the games, beating even Silver and Gary. This is without mentioning the better design, artwork, the seasonal changes, and the experimental camera angles, as well as no longer having TMs be one-use items. This is a huge thing, considering that gym leaders, once you use their TM, it's gone for good. You can now use the TM over and over again. This is a major improvement. In addition, this game was the first time I could actually connect to the internet with my DS. I managed to convince my parents to buy a router so I could connect my DS to the internet for Victini. Afterwards, I would use the internet to trade with people via the GTS, back before you could filter out legendary seekers. I mostly used my sister's system to trade myself, but the Enterlink was a massive amount of fun. I really miss playing in Unova. Maybe I should play White again. Moving on. Let's talk about Generation 3 with Ruby and Sapphire. I had so much fun with these games when I first got Sapphire. I think I nicknamed my Trico Treek or something childish like that. My nicknames have gotten better, I swear. Anyways, some of my favorite Pokemon, like Mightyena, Lanoon, and Kyogre, were always mainstays on my team. They still are, carrying over tradition in later games. My sister made her file with her Blaziken on my Sapphire, and I'm okay with that. Never understood her choice in the nickname, though. What was it again? In addition, this introduced one of my favorite water starters, Mudkip. And anyone who references the meme is getting bad hammered! Sans! Anyways, with the introduction of the run button as well as getting 2 bikes, getting around was never easier. Plus, May, one of my more infuriating rivals, is introduced here. This is a nod for my friend Meredith, who started wearing a bandana in her hair because of May. If I'm remembering that conversation incorrectly, Meredith, please let me know. Also introduced is one of my favorite characters, Wally and his routes. These guys... I'm just going to stop there. You'll see why in a bit. But I do want to talk about Emerald next. A lot of what I said before could be said about Emerald, but with 3 key differences. First, this was the introduction to the Battle Frontier, which is fun and infuriating at the same time. Second, all 3 of the Weather Trio can be caught, similar to the Matter Trio in Diamond and Pearl. Well, I guess more Platinum, but with Rayquaza being done as a story encounter in a well-written manner. Third, this is one of the 3 games that helped begin the wireless era of Pokemon. This was possible, but if the wireless adapter that could be plugged into the Game Boy Advance. I think the effective range was about 10 feet, but I always kept them at about 10 inches. Anyways, I think I enjoyed Emerald more than Ruby and Sapphire. That's not to say the other 2 wireless Game Boy Advance games don't deserve love. Right above Emerald are Fire Red and Leaf Green. I almost did it. I almost went through the entire script without doing that once. Anyways, right above Emerald are Fire Red and Leaf Green, masterfully redone Game Boy Advance versions of Red and Blue. I believe it was Red and Green in Japan first, so... Anyways, I enjoyed going back to Canada with the colorful Gen 3 world. I love the fluid feeling of battle, the running shoes, the fact that on my sister's Fire Red, my cousin Matt set me as her rival. Oh yeah, a major improvement was the ability to choose your gender. Introducing Crystal, I believe, but implemented since. Plus, this adds a new area to the world, the Sevii Islands, which were now accessible and allowed for communication with Hoenn. I could have a Trico on my team with Squirt, Pidge, Coo, and Lap. I swear my nicknames are better now! Anyway, one major improvement was the movement of Moltres. I have no idea where it was in Red and Blue, but now it's perched on top of one island's volcano, considering the lore of Moltres. Third from the top are Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. I know I just lauded Ruby and Sapphire, but this was a blast in the past that I stayed up until midnight just to get my hands on. I don't regret picking up at midnight and playing it as soon as Italian let out. This was a bloody masterpiece, from the 3 models to the expanded list of Mega Evolutions, to Latios and Latias being story encounters instead of post-game, to the return of secret bases. This was one of my favorite additions in Gen 3, to the point Pooch always knew it an Emerald. I named my Omega Ruby Diana Uzume. My nicknames have gotten better. This was a huge breath of fresh air into a beautiful world, as well as being able to see the sky. You know those puddles on Route 20? Well, you can see the sky reflected in them. In addition, the Eon Flute was introduced, allowing you to call your version's Eon Pokemon, Latios or Latias, to fly high in the sky and fly manually wherever you want. Why couldn't we do this with Ride Charizard? Plus, there's a post-game story that is well-written, well-designed, and lets you catch your Deoxys. You can actually encounter a level 80 Deoxys and capture it. With that, there's the return of May and Wally, the latter of which has been my favorite rival theme by far. Both Meredith and I did have a bit of a complaint with May's bandana becoming a bow, though. Minor gripe. If you know me, it's obvious what the top 2 are, so let's just talk about X and Y. These games introduced the Fairy type, which I said earlier was one of my 3 favorites. It still is. Plus, you're no longer a sprite in the overworld. You have an actual model. It's a bit chibi, but still, you're no longer represented by a sprite. Although there are fewer introduced Pokemon in this generation than any other, there are more Pokemon species in this game than any other up to this point. 457 in-game! This also had the fun roller skates as an addition. Now you can move in 8 directions in a straight line with the D-pad, or you can move fluidly with the circle pad. The bike works both ways too, straight or fluid. Plus, this finally introduced the character customization. As far as I know, the only thing you couldn't change was your skin color. I actually managed to find a fedora and red feather in the game. It's kind of obvious what my main hat is. These games also stick out for 2 starter finals. Delphox, a fire psychic, which I don't think had been done before. Well, I mean, there's Zenmo Darmanitan, but for a starter, I don't think it's been done before. And Greninja, the first dark final evolution for a starter. Koga my Greninja was actually the first water starter I picked since Squirt back in Red. As one final note for these games, I actually bought my main system just so I could play Pokemon X, and I don't regret that one goddamn bit. Now we finally get to the top. Pokemon Silver and Gold. These games combine the open-ended nature of Red and Blue with the prowess later games would exhibit. First, it fixed some tight matchups. Psychic was no longer obscenely overpowered. Neural saw the new hurdle of Steel. Bug got some new useful moves, such as Fury Cutter. And Dark was introduced to balance Psychic the Ghost further. We also see the introduction of Cinder, the only first fire I've picked to date. 2 new evolutions, an entirely new region to explore, the first inclusion of Day and Night, Friendship, Eggs, the register button, pockets for items, the introduction of shiny Pokemon. So much changed, and I love it for that. This game is to me what Shadow of the Colossus or Spyro 3 is to Jacksepticeye. I was devastated when the battery in my silver version died. And I was excited when I found out that it was coming to the Virtual Console. I bought it a week in advance. I got Cinder, Aoife, Grim, Cyborg. I'm gonna wrap this up just so I can go back to Johto. So, that's my ranking for the Pokemon main series games. Do you agree, disagree? Please keep it civil in the comments. And thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed it, please click the like button down below. It very much helps. As always, I hope to see you next time. Until then, live long and prosper and arrivederci.